Hey everyone, I'm Fiona. I'm here with my friend Daniel, who is a multi-instrumentalist, composer, improviser. You do like a million things. So why don't you tell people what you do?
Okay, in a nutshell, right? Yeah, composer, improviser, multi-instrumentalist, instrument collector. Yeah, uh, pretty much sums it up. But yeah, multi-instrumentalist, composer. I write music for films and dance films and dance productions. I'm a recording artist, so I make albums fairly regularly, um, and they vary dramatically from instrument to instrument, genre to genre. But I guess they sort of all, um, I guess you could all say it's kind of in the soundtrack category because soundtrack kind of
Yeah.
encompasses so
You
many
have a
different
very
things.
diverse kind of sound and like because you have the different instruments and like different timbres that you're kind of creating, it's almost like each thing that you do is so kind of its own universe, which is really cool.
Yeah,
I
thank
forgot to
you.
say, sorry, I forgot to say that me and Daniel actually played together um, Quartet for the End of Time. We played one of the movements at the World Cultural Center in San Francisco a while back, maybe like a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we were kind of doing the music while there was kind of an acting dance kind of thing going on at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
Totally.
but you played the Ondas Martineau at the time, and I was just playing the piano. But the part is normally the piano and cello. But I actually really liked it with the Ondas Martineau because it was just so much more expressive
Mm-hmm.
and lyrical, and it just felt so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's how we kind of know each other. I guess what do you want to start with? Do you want to talk about like the different instruments that you have or your approach as a composer? Like,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, instruments are a great way to start. I mean, I grew up playing all the usual things. I was a drummer first, so I sold my drums maybe, gosh, like over 15 years ago or something like that. Maybe it was 20 years ago, and because I wanted to focus on guitar at the time, and I was also playing kora, so I kind of just wanted to focus on kora and guitar. But then the Hand Sonic came out, which is a Roland electronic drum, uh, just came out, which is this hand drum that had all these sounds, including drum set sounds and tabla sounds, because I was studying tabla at the time as well. So I was like, ugh, just when I quit drums, the Hand Sonic comes out.
Right.
So of course I had to get a Hand Sonic, and so over the years I've become more of a Hand Sonic player.
Mm.
So I actually have a Hand Sonic right here. You can sort of see here. And so it just sounds like a real drum set, you know.
So it's like it's more of like a drum pad where you can kind of load samples, kind of like the Roland drum pads that they have, the SP.
Exactly. Yeah. The SPs
But
and
that's cool that you can use your hands. I guess it kind of makes it more tactile, kind of like tabla player or something, right? Because there's like different notes that you can play.
exactly. Well, you can go from I could play like a drummer, which I just did, and then I played tabla, so I was like, oh, how does the tabla,
Oh wow.
And you could use the same technique, You could throw in a little extra other percussion things in, so you can make your own kits, your own patches, which I'm all about patches. I love good patches. I'm sure you're
Yeah,
you do the
where
same.
do you get your sound libraries, sample libraries? Are they like I use a lot of East West sample libraries,
Mm.
complete, but mostly
Um,
East West.
yeah, yeah, complete. I definitely use a lot of Native Instruments stuff. I try to stick to my own samples when I can,
What's the
but
best?
like the Hand Sonic also has a lot of really cool samples in there already, and you can uh, modify them. So I'm really into taking what's already there and modifying. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're always saying don't take the stock sounds. I'm kind of guilty of doing this though. Well, I'll just get kind of lazy, especially with my band or even like film scoring stuff. I'll just kind of like not tweak the sample enough. So it's like when people can recognize your sample from like, oh, that's from this blah 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 sample library. That's kind of embarrassing. It's like kind of showing your cards, I guess. But sometimes it works, you know. Sometimes you just need a, you know, clean violin sample.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Hopefully,
yeah.
no one will notice that I use that triangle from the Native Instruments.
Well, there was a video game. Was it Pez or Fez? I can't remember. It was a 2D platformer game, and they just used all of the samples from Out of Massive,
Oh
just
wow.
like unaltered, and you can recognize them. But it works. Like they're great as they are.
Mm, mm.
So,
Right.
um,
It's like why mess with them? If it ain't broken,
yeah.
don't fix it, you know.
Well, also sometimes I'm more focused on like the composing part of it. I'm less worried about the timbre. I feel like some people, when they kind of work, they're kind of, you know, either trying to find the right timbres or the right sounds that they're trying to compose with, or they're just kind of focused more on the song structure, the piece,
Mhm.
and kind of like how, you know, how to develop something. So when I'm trying to do both of those, it's kind of like my brain gets a little bit, you know, it's a little bit too crazy.
Yeah. It's a lot to handle for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so yeah, the hand sonic is like that's where I can still be a drummer, and then I've just over the years I've branched off into many different kinds of instruments, um, which you can see some of them
I know, I see your
here.
collection in the back.
Yeah, I've got well, my viola da gamba. This is one of the newest additions to my thing. I started playing, God, I want to say 2014, something like that.
Wow. And is it
Yeah,
with the catgut strings?
yeah, yeah.
Really?
Fully Baroque, traditional. Yeah, yeah. It's just one of those things. I love discovering new things and kind of incorporating the. I mean, it sounds cliche, but just discovering new things and incorporating them into my aesthetic. And the viola da gamba. I mean, I've been to music school, and you'll most likely in music studies come across it, right?
Oh
If you're
yeah.
studying Baroque music or something. So I knew what a viola da gamba was essentially, but it just never, I was never like an early music person. I never really was drawn to it for any reason. But this is a whole other story is how I got into any string instrument at all. And that was through my great uncle who I never met. He died in 1955. But my aunt, um, uh, who was his widow, had this cello in the corner, my Aunt Florence. And I was like, is that a cello? Is that Moe's cello? He's like, yeah, that's Moe's cello. His name was Moses. I was like, can I look at it? And he's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So I look at it, it's just, it's kind of in pieces and stuff. It's just this poor dilapidated cello. But it was a cello, and it was Moe's cello, right? So I'm like, can I have it? And she was like, I'll have to think about it. She was very, because she knew I wanted everything. I was like, oh, can I have
Mm,
this book? And can I have this? Or can I? Because I'm such a collector, right?
right,
So
right.
eventually she was like, okay, you can have it, but you better play it. And boy, did I ever. I mean, I took it on the plane with me and took it back. I took it to Ifshin when it was in, I think it's still, yeah, Ifshin is still in Berkeley.
Uh-huh.
And they totally refurbished it. And so, of course, I went right to the Bach cello suites. If
Huh.
I'm going to learn anything, it's going to be the suites, So it's like, what's the easiest one? I figured the Sarabande of the first suite. I'm like, okay, I can
Mhm.
learn the Sarabande. I mean, come on, it's not so hard.
Right,
And then
right.
I work my way up. So that was like late '90s. I mean, that was a long time ago when I got into cello, and then I abandoned it for a long time because I got a string broke, and then broke again, or I forget what. For some reason, I just stopped playing for like years, almost 10 years. And then I had a girlfriend who played cello, and she was playing for me one night. And I was like, "Oh, can I try?" And I picked it up and played it, and it was just like oh my God, I have a cello and I'm not playing it. So I took it out and I again that was around 2014, and I just totally fell in love with the cello. Um,
Mm,
and so I discovered oh, what's his name? Because I was reading the Cello Suites, a book. There was a book called Cello Suites, and I forget the author. Um, but he mentions a lot of the people who have done renditions of that piece. And there was on the Peter, oh, I can't remember.
Pablo
Peter,
Casals.
not Pablo Casals, although
I love his version.
I love his, I mean, it's the
Yeah.
quintessential version.
Yeah.
I spent like $120 on an LP version of that I found on eBay. I was like,
Wow.
I have to have it.
Yeah.
I geeked
Yeah.
out totally. But I found this version by Peter something. Anyway, it was mentioned in the book because he gave just a really brief synopsis of these different players. You know, Maisky's approach and um, Yo-Yo Ma's approach, and you know, and so I've got these different. But the way he mentioned Peter or Peter is I think he's from Denmark or something. I was like, I have to hear it. Like he described his rendition as like magical or something, you know.
Hmm.
And so I listened to it, and what I noticed about it was like hardly any vibrato at all, and he
Really?
pitch perfect. So I'm like, this is the most beautiful rendition of the suites I've ever heard. It's perfect in its execution
Right.
and no vibrato. I'm like, what does this remind me of? And for some reason, I'm like, Baroque, a viola da gamba, maybe.
Yeah.
So I just do a YouTube search of viola da gamba, and suddenly there's Jordi Savall and Paolo Pandolfo and all these. I'm like, this is the most beautiful music I've ever heard. Where have I been? You know. So
Right.
so
Right.
that's my cello slash viol story.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, if you think about it, like vibrato was kind of added to kind of, do you know about the history of vibrato?
No, I don't think so.
I know with like voice with opera, the vibrato was kind of meant to help the voice kind of project more.
Mm.
But the vibrato kind of gives it more color, more sparkle, and kind of makes the line more interesting. But if like if you're thinking about Baroque music, the tuning was completely different too, right? Was
Mm-hmm.
four A was 432, so it was kind of
Mm-hmm.
everything was like lower in pitch. And that's a whole conversation of like, why did we move to 440? Why do we have to standardize it to that?
Oh,
When I listen to
totally.
Baroque music that's in the 432 tuning, it is, I don't know. I think there's a difference in it. It feels more peaceful. It feels like it gets to your heart more. It feels like it's just like I remember listening to a lot of the like early music, the vocal ensembles, and there's no vibrato. It's just the tones, the pitches are so pure, and it just feels like
Mm-hmm.
it penetrates your heart, and it's just kind
Mm-hmm.
of like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
very powerful. So I'm wondering,
Yeah. Yes,
um,
I think actually it's 415. I know
oh,
Viola da Gamba
415.
is tuned 415. Yeah.
Oh, so
So
it's
even
even
lower. It's almost a
lower.
half step. Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy.
Wow. Yeah, no, that'd be interesting to kind of maybe in another video talk about tunings and stuff like that.
Mm.
But so the viola da gamba is not really it's not really an equal temperament because it's based on your finger where it is on the string to change the pitch. Like your
Right.
keyboard instruments are going to be all in like equal temperament. So it's like
Yeah.
everything's going to be the octaves will be in tune, but it'll be kind of divided, like everything else is kind of equally out of tune.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean,
Oh, no, that I know that like in equal temperament, like your major thirds are going to be a little bit wider. Your perfect fifths are going to be 2 cents off, but it's very
oh,
not really noticeable. But yeah, so it's interesting that you have an instrument that's much out of the equal temperament, and then a lot of keyboard instruments.
yeah, it's a little crazy. In fact, well, with this piano, I think I've seen you play the RD 700. I think that you have the Roland,
Yeah,
right?
I have the Roland, the RD 700
Yeah.
GX behind me.
Yeah, same things.
Oh, you have.
Yeah, I have the same thing.
A great
And it's great because you can. I've made some harpsichord patches, in fact, and I was like, oh, I should make one in 415. So I actually did. Let me see if I could find it. So I have the. Oh wait. So again, I just love patches. Well, this is like my favorite. That's my favorite
Mm.
harpsichord patch. It even does the lift-off sound. You know that you can hear it
Oh
lift off.
yeah.
It's just like so gorgeous. And I really played with the EQs, so it really doesn't have a whole lot of low end, a whole lot of mid range. It's very, you know. But then I have, let's see, where is, oh, here it is. I even named it Harpsichord A415. Here,
Oh wow.
let me see. So this is the regular one. So here's D. And then, you know, it's the EQ is a little different, but the pitch is there. If ever I wanted to play with the viola da gamba.
Wow.
Yeah, I just love harpsichord.
Yeah, so beautiful. Have you played on a real harpsichord?
Oh yes, yeah, they're just gorgeous. I want one.
I know. I heard like the tuning them, they get out of tune really easily though.
Mm,
But they feel so different. The keys are like they're like half the lengths. And so when you push on the key, it's like doing a pluck, right? And so
yeah,
it's I don't know, it's almost how what would I compare it to?
that's a good question.
Well,
Uh,
there's also the monochord, right? That's also another keyboard instrument that was quite is like a practice keyboard.
oh, the clavichord,
Clavichord, monochord.
clavichord. That's even weirder because you can actually
Yeah.
move your finger and get vibrato. It's that sensitive. Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah. But the harpsichord almost feels like you're playing a guitar because there's this resistance, there's this plucking of the.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very quiet too.
Oh, it's so quiet. Yeah, that's why I made this patch. So like I almost have to turn it up every time you know, every time I.
Mm.
Hey, but
Yeah.
that's your instrument too, the RD 700. Such a
I
great piano,
know.
and the pianos are just ridiculous. You know? Mm,
Yeah. It's inspiring. It just makes you want to play music all day long.
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are these other instruments behind you?
Okay, um, so yeah, viola da gamba. The one next to this is the brand new. Let me turn my mic down. The brand new Ondomo. So last time I saw you, I had this Ondomo,
So,
which
is
was
it
the first
called?
one.
So, it's not an Ondas Martineau. I'm saying it wrong.
You're saying it right. This is Andes or And Martineaus.
Martineau.
They're basically And Martineaus, but they're kind of like they're a smaller scale.
Mhm.
So you don't have as much of a range, and they're designed to just kind of take with you. So it's
Um,
like a built-in. It's like a theremin in a box. Is the way I like to describe it.
yeah, yeah. Well, I remember because you played with us at Telepathic Birds one time. You know, you were playing like a set with us, and it was so cool, so portable. But there's all these wires everywhere. You had to like hook it up and everything, and you had a delay pedal with you.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's
It
like a
definitely
small
needs.
instrument. It's like a little MIDI controller.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the first electronic instruments.
Mm.
I mean, it came after the theremin, so I'd say the theremin was
Oh.
probably the first. Um, but same technology using, I think, I want to say radio waves or some sort of waves. But they didn't have that. I mean, they didn't have they didn't know what sine waves and square waves and
Mm.
triangle waves were at the time. So they had these different names for the things for the so you can get different sort of waveforms, but they're named a little differently, which is kind of archaic, which I love.
So how does it work? Like, do you start with a certain wave signal or waveform, like a triangle wave, square wave, or is it like you have to build it from scratch?
Well, it's basically a button
Hmm.
situation. So it's not like an analog synth where you could have to, you could change the frequency and the LFO or anything like that. It's just
Uh-huh.
basically you have like one button, like the O button is basically like a sine wave. So it's a very simple wave, and this is what that sounds like. Do you hear that?
That's so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So and there's, if you could see this button I'm pushing, the touche intensité they call it, or the intensity of the touch.
Mhm.
Um, that is where you get your dynamics. So if I press it down slowly, I can get slow legato lines, and then you press it fast, you can get staccato lines.
Wow.
And if I change the sound to C, which is a little bit more like a I guess you would call it a triangle wave. It just has a little bit more presence to it. And then the keyboard itself is very flexible, so you can do vibrato on the keyboard, which is a really nice thing. Um, but the thing that makes this instrument like what it is the ring. So there's this wire here with a ring attached to it, and you put your finger in it, and wherever that ring is where the pitch is. So you can do these sort of theremin like glissandi.
Hmm.
And it makes you want to do this sort of violin like vibrato. It's very old school.
Yeah, but also you can kind of see where you are. I feel like with um the theremin, you don't have a sense of where A or B like you have to memorize where in the air you are to kind of get to the pitch. So you could
Exactly.
actually just look at the keyboard and see where you are, right? It kind of tells you
Mm-hmm.
which note you're using, so it makes it easier. That's why it was so, I was like, man, yeah, it sounds like a theremin, but that would be so hard to play on theremin because it's just like a choreography of like where the pitches are and stuff. So
Yeah, exactly.
wow, that's so cool
Yeah. And
and
then
very expressive.
it's so expressive. And the range too. I mean, you can go so high, and you're like you could practically go higher than, I don't know if it's higher than a violin, because with the violin you can also do harmonics and things,
Right.
but you can just get so high in pitch. Now, an instrument like this, I think, needs some sort of ambience. So I always bring some sort of pedal. So I've got a little reverb here, and this is what it would sound like with a little reverb. And I think it's a little quiet too, so I'm just trying to.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Just it kind of gives it this room space, but it almost feels like we're in outer space because it's just so otherworldly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Amazing.
I love it. That's why I have two.
Uh, where
Yeah.
does one get an Anna's Martineau?
So Nayuko Nayuki, sorry, Nayuki Omo. He's in Japan, and he makes them by hand. So my new one, so each of them took almost 2 years for him to make.
Oh,
Uh, and but it's worth it because he really puts a lot of love into his instruments, um, and they're just amazing. So So yeah, and that's on Domo. I guess it's on Domo.com, or it's pretty easy to find
Mm.
there. And look up the name Naoyuki, N-A-O-Y-U-K-I. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's
electronic
amazing.
instruments.
I mean, we talked about like pianos taking like 3 years to make, like the Bosendorfer takes 3 years to make. So that's amazing that and the on Martineau would take 2 years. I mean, I could see why. There's just so much wiring and
Hmm.
things that need to be kind of connected and stuff.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and lots of demand. So there are a lot of there's a long waiting list.
mm,
So when I first saw the instrument and I showed an interest, I was talking to this guy Patrick. It was at the NAMM show actually in
oh,
Anaheim,
wow.
and uh, and you could imagine just how crazy excited I was when I saw it, because I was just wandering around the NAMM show,
Mhm.
um, and I saw way off in the distance um, the speakers that Maurice Martineau made for this instrument. So he made these weird speaker type things, which he called diffusers.
Right, it's
Um,
like the metal plate thing. It almost looks like a hanging cymbal. Is that?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's in fact, I have it right there. The one that's lit up there. This
Yeah.
one here.
Okay.
Um, you sort of. I don't know if you could hear that.
That's just
Actually, I have the.
slightly. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have it. I have it picked up actually. I'm just tapping on it. So that's the gong, right? And so the on Martineau, there is an output, a powered output. So there's a passive output, which I'm going through this, whatever, through the speakers here, uh, passive. And then there's a powered output. So there's actually an amp inside of uh, the on Martineau, which can power a passive speaker. So the Metallique, it's called the Metallique. This
Mhm.
gong speaker has a sort of motor, and basically it just sends the sound from the on Martineau, the vibrations into the gong, and creates these weird overtones. So I can demonstrate that for you. Let me just check this out here. Did you hear that? So you can get real spacious and avant-garde with it. It's kind of wonderful.
Yeah, it's very like Brian Eno, Steve Roach. I love it. Yeah, it's almost like the Metalik kind of adds these extra harmonics, but also like resonance
Mm.
and almost like it EQs the sound so it's brighter.
Yes.
Um, yeah, that's pretty cool that they thought to do that.
Mm.
But yeah, it's a resonant surface, and so you have the speaker attached to that, or it's connected to that somehow.
No, that's it. So it's like an acoustic. It's weird. It's like
Oh,
an acoustic speaker, because there's no speaker cone or no electronics. Well, I guess there are electronics because there's a motor there that's causing the vibration. So
right.
this is sending the vibration into the motor, which vibrates the the gong. But the sound you're hearing is totally acoustic. You're hearing just vibration
Wow.
going through a gong. Um, it's just so great. So I've been fascinated. So I never thought I would have an on Martineau, let alone a Metallique. I feel like one of the luckiest people on earth. And um, so I, would follow the Ondomo Instagram page, and I discovered Josh Siemens, who makes them, or just started making them, or he just makes these amazing videos. He's an amazing player. He's one of my favorite on Martineau players. And Josh was posting these videos with a metallique in it. I'm like, where'd you get the metallique? He's like, oh,
Mm.
I made this one, and I'm thinking about making some more. And I was like, I'll buy one.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, I would just die to have one. Because he has this beautiful gong with this a Japanese character on top, and then he put these lights around it, which you can see, which I think, what I showed you earlier. Yeah, so he put these lights inside the chamber, um, which is optional. I mean, the I don't think the originals had that, and I think he put it in as kind of a fun little performance thing.
Ah, wow.
Yeah. So that's what I think I brought that to when we performed at the church together when we did the I brought my metallic.
Yeah. Yeah, because you put it like right next to the stage so that people would see it.
Yes.
Yeah, because it was just like, whoa, it's like a kind of like a sun, it was just like glowing and
Exactly.
yeah,
So cool.
amazing. Makes me
Yeah.
want to get one, but yeah.
I'm sure you could. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe down the road. I'd definitely be interested. I have so many keyboards right now. It's kind of like I have to make room, you know.
Yeah. I totally in your predicament. I'm surrounded by them here.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? What
Yeah.
else do you have back there?
Well, let's see. I'm
You got
just basically going.
tablas too, or like real
Yeah.
tablas.
Yeah. I got so tablas. I picked up in the like right before I came to San Francisco in the '90s. Um, Studied with Swapan Chowdhury and Tim Witter of the Ali Akbar College in Santa
Oh
Monica.
wow, that's so cool. Yeah, I took some Indian classical like vocal classes with Alam Khan back in the day.
You mean who? Who was
Oh,
the
is
teacher?
it Alam Khan? His Ali
Is it?
Akbar's
Oh, Ali Akbar College. Oh, one of his son or
his
something.
sons. Yeah. Oh, it was
Wow.
really, really fascinating. There's just so much like nuance. I mean, it is all about like the pitch, the tone, and then the rhythms are just so like crazy
Mm-hmm.
complex.
Yeah.
Like Brian Ferneyhough type of rhythms on tablas.
Mm.
It's like, yeah. But okay, so you studied a little bit with those two tabla players.
Yeah.
What was that
Abs-
like?
Oh, it was great. I mean, um, when I was in college in Connecticut, I my last year there before I left, I started to get into world music, and I found a set of tablas at a music store in Hartford. Um, and it was oh, no, it's not the set of tablas. I found um, what came first, the record or the tablas? Anyway, I think maybe I got the tablas first. I was interested in tablas. I don't remember. But anyway, there was a record store near where I lived in Hartford, and they had this record of like 32 lessons on how to play play the tabla. And
Wow.
either I had the tablas or I was already interested or something. So I bought the record. It was an LP, and at the time I somehow had a record player. And I got a pair of tablas from Ray Spiegel, who was Steve Gorn's tabla player. Steve Gorn is a bansuri player, the Indian flute,
Mhm.
and my girlfriend at the time, Meg Ryan, um, different Meg Ryan,
Okay.
was a professional flautist, and she was auditioning for. Uh, Anyway, she was at. This is, I just totally sidetracked on how I got into Cora. So it's so funny. Anyway, it was a very fruitful time because I discovered the tabla and the Cora. But she had a lesson with Steve Gorn. Maybe I got her a lesson with Steve Gorn for her birthday. I don't remember. But we drove down to New York
Oh,
for
wow.
her to have a lesson, and then for me to get a pair of tablas from Ray. So yes, and I still have those tablas that that I bought from him, and then I learned from the record. I got through the whole
Wow.
record. It was a Karamachula Khan of a different Gharana or a different family than like the Zakir Hussain and Swapan Chaudhary. No, not Lucknow Gharana, a different Gharana or family. Um, I mean, they're all kind of interchangeable, I think,
Hmm.
to some degree. But I went through the whole book, so I learned all the tekas and the tihais and the kairas and all the different. I learned the form, the bowls. I had it all together. And so when I got to the Ali Akbar College and I auditioned, they said, "Okay, well, we can put you with Swapan, who was the man, and then
Wow.
but also with Tim." So it was like back and forth. And they both were great. And I still know Tim. I see him every now and then, at, musical events and things. And Swapan is still, doing his thing and just wonderful. Swapanji. So yeah, I studied for a very short time, and then I just kind of, I don't know, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans, I guess. And but again, I kind of stopped doing the tablas at the same time I got rid of my drums, and then I got the
Mm.
hand sonic. So the hand sonic took place of all of it. So I can go right from doing that to doing, drum kit. Anyway, so yeah, the hand sonic kind of is like how I funneled those, tabla and drumming energies. Uh, but so I was just in Portland last year visiting a friend, and he had these tablas, and he's like, "Hey, I'm not using them," and they're
Ooh.
like brand new. I mean, he got them, a long time ago, but he just never played them. And he's like, "Yeah, I never play them, and they're, you can have them." He just gave them to me, so I'm
Wow.
playing them again, and it's just wonderful, wonderful to be playing them again, like real tablas.
Wow. Yeah, no, I had, well, would you say it's like a set of tablas or it's just tablas is both of the drums?
So tablas is both of the drums.
Tablas.
Yeah.
Because I
Um,
did, sorry, go on.
yeah. So the big drum is called the bayan, and then I think the big drum is called the dayan with a D,
Uh-huh.
and together they're the tablas.
Yeah, because I did, I had tablas for a while, like a long time ago, because I was like, I was really wanted to learn at the AACM. And I ended up not, it was just like trying to do too many things at once. I think I was at Mills College and I was learning about the rhythm stuff, the taka, di, mi, you do the clapping, the rhythms, takita, taka, takita. So you count in 5, 4, 3, and you go up to like, I don't know, 15 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or you just, you can go on, just like how you divide groups of beats. But
Mm-hmm.
it was cool. Like I think like when I was in the class at Mills College, it was like a rhythm class that I took, but the guy had studied at the AACM, so we were kind of learning these rhythms and doing the clapping motions with our hands. So I thought that was really fascinating. Yeah, because I feel like, it's just not that much attention is really paid to rhythm. We're
Mm-hmm.
kind of more about harmony and melody and
Mm-hmm.
timbre, but like rhythm is kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
real, like, in different cultures, it's like, um, it's either not as developed or, harmony becomes more of like the important thing that people focus on, I guess, in music,
Mm-hmm.
or melody or timbre.
Mm-hmm.
So
Precisely. Yeah.
yeah, well, that's really cool. So you got acoustic tablas as well as electronic tablas,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, going down the line here. So I have my synths. I'm a big Roland guy, so of course the RD700, the Roland Hansonic. I've got the new MK2 um, SP404 just came out, so I'm really digging that. Great for beats, beat making.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I'm exploring that world a lot more these days, and of course the classic synths. So I have the Roland Jupiter 8, which is
Nice.
the mothership, and then my very first synth was the JXAP actually, which has become a lot more popular these days. It's people are kind of catching on to how what a great synth it was, and I didn't realize what a great synth it was when I had it in the 80s. So my dad got it for me for my graduation gift from
Oh,
high
that's so
school.
cool.
Yeah, and of course I didn't know what it was. You know, I was like, here's one of my synths, you know, and I was like, oh my god, cool, you know. But of course I knew what Roland was, and
Mm.
you know they were in their heyday then, and so I got the JXAP. It didn't have the PG 800 controller, um, so I basically used the sounds that were in it, which were you know lovely, and I did a lot of recordings from you know when I was in my teens, you know.
Hmm.
And then he borrowed it when he said, "Hey, do you mind if I borrow your JXAP for a session?" Because he was you know a session guy,
Mm.
and he never gave it back. I'm like, "What happened to the synthesis? I don't know what happened. The cartridge guy lost it, or I left it at the." How could you lose a synthesizer? You know,
Right.
so it just kind of was sad. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, I wasn't. I must have been pretty sad about it. I mean, it was a Roland synth,
Yeah.
but I guess at the time maybe it wasn't considered their best work, you know, compared to the Jupiter and you know maybe the Junos and the you know and then later on like the you know the JD 800s and it just I mean it kind of got lost in the mix. And I think what's happening now is people are realizing what a great synth it is,
Mm.
both the sound and also the PJ 800 just adds so much versatility. Anyway, so long story short, my hairdresser, who's right across the street, um, was talking about some synths that he wanted to get rid of. And I'm like, yeah, I've got this old analog synth from the 80s. And I'm like, is that a
Oh,
JX8P? And he's like, I don't know, I'll check. I'll send you the picture of it. And like a week later, I get this picture in my text,
wow.
and it's the JX8P with the PJ800. I'm like, oh my God.
That's a miracle.
For like $400. So I'm
That's
like,
crazy.
again, the luckiest man on earth here.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. That's like universe saying, here you go.
Totally. Exactly.
So how do you approach like if you're writing a piece of music with these different instruments, like how do you conceptualize your idea? I'm
Mm,
kind of curious because you got so many tools. So how do you approach? Do you just start improvising on one or do you hear something in your head and start working with that?
right.
How do you approach
Uh, it really depends. I mean, I've always had the software world and the analog world kind of separate,
that?
you
Mm.
know. So I'll do a lot of live looping and combining Hansonic with the RD700 and, you know, maybe some voice and, you know, stuff like that. And then Cora, which I haven't gotten to yet. And then,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
whatever instrument, I just combine them and create cool loops, right? But then I open up Logic and I'm like, it's a completely different approach, you know. So I'm writing for film or writing for dance or doing like some corporate thing. It's like I'm like, oh, I'm suddenly I'm using like you know native instruments and I'm using
All right.
you know Sonic Couture or I'm using you know Spectrasonics or different you know I'm not I actually don't really feel like using
Mm.
the tools, but I'm finding more and more like when I got the JXAP, I had some projects that I was working on and just like I had to put some of those pads in there. Like
Mm.
yes, I can get that with the you know with something in Logic, you know, easy, you know. But I was like, I just want to get that raw, just some just gorgeous analog pad from the JX, you know.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of that like last year when I got it. Um, I just love bringing in the you know instruments from the outside and incorporating them into uh, the composing on the computer workflow.
I think it
Um,
just adds a warmth to it. And also you're playing it. I mean, it's so easy on your DAW to just quantize everything and then it just sounds almost like there's no soul to it. And then when you're actually playing it in, it has that human element. So
totally, totally.
yeah.
And it's more special, you know, like if like I said, I could do it all in Logic, you know, or do it using native instruments and stuff, and you get amazing results. But then when you replace that synth sound with a JX or with you know, I've got some other synths too, but or the Jupiter, or you know, the listener might not know it, but I know that I
Mm,
used an authentic instrument from 1986. You know,
right,
where I
right.
use something that like lives and breathes and like, you know, gets hot to the touch if you leave it on too long. You know, it just has that something, and it really does have a different sound too. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Oh, telepathic birds, I'd always bring in my Korg Poly 800 just to add something to the mix. Because
Yeah.
otherwise I would just rely on, Absinthe or FM8 or Massive or
Hmm.
any of the other synths that I have. But it's like the warmth, you need the warmth from the analog synth to kind of give it body. It just fills up the frequency spectrum in a way that I don't know, it just makes it sound more round, I guess, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
Yeah. Were you using that synth when I saw you play at the yeah, outdoor concert?
I was not.
Because
Yeah,
I
my
remember you had the, I think you had an audio controller.
it was a Roland and AX1, so it's actually a keytar that I was using.
Oh,
But
that's right. That's right.
yeah,
The
the
big
keytar, but I
roll.
don't wear it like a keytar because it's weird on my back and stuff like that. So I just
Hmm.
wear it, just kind of put it on the keyboard stand. Yeah, the Korg Poly, I'm still, because we've been kind of doing a lot of like shows at the beach and stuff. I'm like, oh, I don't want to get sand in my Korg Poly because those are just vintage. I just don't want to,
Yeah.
you know, mess with it. But maybe I should get
Totally.
over my fear and just take it out to the beach sometime. But I don't know. I'm just a little hesitant.
Yeah, I totally feel you. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I love Korg, by the way, too. I have the micro Korg.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, those are awesome. Easy, you can transport them. There's a lot of, you can make like whole songs just using that. I mean, I kind of thought it was a little bit cheating, just because it's like, oh, no matter what you do, it's going to sound good,
Uh-huh.
you know?
It's
So,
so true. Yeah, it's such a versatile instrument, and it's a vocoder, which is crazy.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it has the microphone so you can kind of alter your voice.
Yeah.
All right, and I know you had a Cora as well
Mm.
that we haven't talked
How
about.
how could I not talk about the Cora? Because that's the instrument I would say that defines me the most. When people
Mm.
say, "What does Daniel Berkman do?" Oh, the Cora player, right? Um, this is the one that kind of lives next to the all this stuff. So I do a lot of performances, dance classes, and things like that right here on Zoom, and so this whole setup is actually used almost every day. And this is the Cora that sits here. I have about 10 Coras in my room, which you can't see all of them
Oh
now,
my
but
gosh.
I have tons of Coras. But this is my kind of main workhorse for different reasons. But it's a harp lute from West Africa. It's 21 strings. It's made of wood, and there's a gourd resonator at the bottom, or sound box. Um, and has two rows of strings, so it's kind of like a double harp. So it's a harp, lute, and a double harp. It's kind of a strange amalgamation of instruments. Um, and I discovered it. I discovered it in the late '80s, actually, from a Steve Lacy record. Um, just one of these random tracks where the bass player played Cora and everybody was jamming around him. I'm like, what is that instrument? It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard.
Wow.
But then I heard Tumani Diabate a couple of years later when I was in Hartford, and I was like, it sounded like a one-man Steve Reich ensemble or something.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
of the contrapuntal lines and things. But then I moved to San Francisco in the 95-ish, and found somebody who was teaching and also selling the instruments, and I bought my first instrument.
Oh. It's so beautiful. I'm really curious because it's like it's almost like you have I don't know how the tunings work, if it's the same scale on each side or the same notes of the strings on each side. So it's like two keyboards that you're playing.
So they alternate from left to right. So you can go from right to left to right to left to
Oh,
right. Oh, yeah, just go left, right, left, right, left, right.
wow.
So if I do two strings side by side, then you could do like parallel thirds. Parallel fifths. Right? Or and then if you can have them alternating, so you could have like sixes. Yeah, just chorus.
Yeah, it's so soothing. And also, I feel like I've seen those like when people do sound healing as well,
Mm.
like with the gongs and the crystal bowls and stuff like that, where it's kind of like more of like a frequency and they'll, I don't know. I think I remember just like hearing that, but
Yeah,
it's, yeah, I just feel like it could fit anywhere, like in any type of ensemble.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Exactly. Yeah, it's very versatile.
yeah, and so you have like 10 of these?
Yeah. I mean, they all vary so dramatically. I mean, I've got this one. So I have four made by Michael Shroud
Mhm.
of Combengo Chorus. This one was the first one I got from him.
Mhm.
I have another one sitting right over here, which I should show you. Actually, it's just really gorgeous.
Okay.
But I have that one, which was my second one by him. And then he started making electrics, and so I got two electrics as well.
Wow.
Yeah, which are
An
just
electric
wonderful.
Cora.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
let me
amazing.
grab this one and just show it to you real quick.
Okay, okay, yeah. It kind of reminds me of a tambour a little bit, just like the shape of it, but there's like way more strings. Tambour only has like four strings.
Oh, the tambura, the
Tambora,
Indian.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
it's
drone
similar.
instrument.
Let me see if I can't plug this guy in here. This one is special. I'll tell you why in a second. Okay. Yeah. All right. See if we can make this work. So this one is essentially a chromatic chorus. So what he did, he added these tuning levers to the neck, and the neck, as you can see, is very different. It's just a very sort of thin piece of wood. So you could arrange with a lot more. It's a lot wider, so you can fit the tuning levers on it. So there's a lot of gadgetry. It's pretty sweet. But it's just an amazing instrument. The gourds, the way he treats the gourds is amazing. And this one, the bridge, is made of paduk, which is different from the maple and the, I think there's also some other, he's got some sort of like a rosewood veneer here. Just amazing. He's from Austria, so I think that plays a little bit into his craftiness. He's just really, his instruments are just so meticulous. But the cool thing about the levers is you can, tweak them and get all kinds of different tunings. And so right now it's tuned down to like an E pentatonic. Right, so you could do the.
So you're changing them while you're playing.
Yeah, you could do them
That's
while you're
amazing.
playing. these low notes are, so usually they're 21 strings, but I had him, so this is a custom instrument. I had him add 2 strings at the bottom. So it normally goes up just down to F, or in this case, E. But I have these 2 extra notes. And then D, and then C. Is that C?
Wow.
Yeah, a little out of tune, but.
Wow. Yeah, I felt this one was a lot more versatile. And I like that you could add the harmonics to that. That was
Right.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I do a lot of harmonics. You don't
And
see a
you
whole
just
lot of
do
that
it,
with chord.
and you just play the harmonic the same way you would do it on like any stringed instrument. You have to
Yep.
find that like half point.
Exactly. Which I miss all
Oh.
the time. You'd think by now I'd have it, but but when I hit it right, it's like, yes, I got it. But it's just something I need to spend a lot more time on. But I every time I play, I use them, as you could tell. I always incorporate those harmonics.
Yeah, so this is kind of like a one of a kind Cora that not
Yeah,
usually has, it doesn't usually have this wide of a range of notes,
exactly.
and just being chromatic too, or I guess you could tune it right in any way you wanted.
Totally. Yeah.
Wow. And it's cool because like a harp, I feel like you have to, they're heavy, they're hard to move around, and this is like a lightweight instrument, just sits on your lap.
Yeah.
And it's electric too. You can plug it in.
Totally.
So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious, what are your, because we're kind of wrapping up right now. Is there anything else that you want to show us, your instrument collection?
That I kind of covered all of the hot topics, really. I mean, the Cora, the Ondomo, the Hansonic,
Mm-hmm.
the rad synthesizers, cello, viola da gamba. These are all things that I'm just very passionate about, and of course my uh, uh, combining all that in my composing sort of workflow and stuff. So I would say the laptop is probably it's the one that's overlooked the most, but
Right.
because I kind of take it for granted. It's like that's what I compile everything. That's where I create all of the work.
Right.
But the day to day, like just I wake up and I see my instruments. And when I'm playing a dance class or something, it's like I'm using my instruments. I'm the multi instrumentalist. So it's an interesting dichotomy. The software and computer world, and then the actual music world.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, my other instrument would be Logic, because Logic is just
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do. I mean, none of this would matter without Logic, because
Right.
that's how I make my albums, do my my scores and all that stuff. So yeah, hats off to Logic. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I love that, you're doing a lot of hands-on stuff, rather than just working on the laptop with a MIDI controller. There's a definite like relationship that you have with your instruments. So it's just way more personal.
Yeah.
I just feel like, when I do my film scoring, sometimes I feel so far removed from the actual playing of the instrument that it just becomes like a robotic thing. So it's refreshing to see that you record your instruments a lot of times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where might people hear you perform next, or what projects are you working on currently
Mm.
that
Uh,
people can check out?
yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So all my music is on Bandcamp for now. I have some music on Spotify, which um, I'm the, the jury is still out about Spotify. I mean, it's such a great tool for getting
Right.
music out there, but there's a lot of controversy in terms of you know people making a living or getting
Right.
anyway, so there's that. But I do have a couple of things on Spotify, and I'm considering putting more stuff out because I do think sometimes people will contact me and be like, hey, I just heard your music, and oh cool, where'd you hear it? Spotify. I was like, oh, okay, it's kind of
Yeah.
cool to have that reach. So but for now, all of my music is on Bandcamp. So it's
We'll put a
Daniel
link
Bergman.
below so that people
Okay.
can find your music.
Awesome. Wonderful. Yeah, and in terms of projects, so I've been composing for so many years that I have this backlog of albums, and I just love the album
Concept or
concept. Thank you. Yeah, and I love concept albums. I love the concept album concept. So I feel like every album I do is kind of conceptual. It's like I don't just do an album of songs or an album of just like the typical thing. So for me, it's like, okay, well, this album is going to be at all. Like, there's one I'm sitting on right now that I'm like, I thought I might release in January, but I'm just like, I'm really kind of slow at getting this thing done. I mean, it's pretty much done, but like the mixing, mastering, all that kind of stuff. But it's my cello viola da gamba record.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So in 2014 to like 2018 or so, I was just doing tons of recording, doing scores, and doing this every February. I do this song a day challenge with dozens of other musicians, and so we write a song, record it, and post it every single day for the month of February. And I've been doing that for like 10 years, and every year it's different. And there was one year where I was doing just tons of cello, and then as I got into viola da gamba, I started recording viola da gamba. So I started to do, on my spare time, sometimes I just do prototype albums. I love to hear how things sound together. I'm like, oh, do I have enough songs with the cello to do an album? Let's see, I've got four. I have 4 cello ones. I've got 4 or 5 viola da gamba ones. Oh, I have this one little thing that I did with the cello. It was a little short, but maybe I could put that in between, and it'd be kind of like. So I start conceptualizing an album. Then I just make a playlist, put all in Logic or whatever, and just like line them up, make them into a CD or put them on my phone, and then listen to them. And then my favorite part is just doing some like prototype artwork. So I have like an idea for some artwork and do that while I'm mixing. So I'm hearing the music, then I'm making the art, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool, But this cello one, it's got so I sing in it, and then I have other people singing. My friend Artemis Robison, who's just a delightful singer and songwriter herself. We did some arrangements together of a couple of my songs where she sang my lyrics. And there are other songs where I sing too. So not only am I playing cello and viola da gamba, which most people don't know I play, I'm also singing, and not very many people know I sing. So
I didn't know you sang.
Anyway, so that's one of the projects. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I love this.
Is my little voice transformer.
Yeah, so I sing too.
Very cool. No, I can't wait to check out more of your work and hear more of the stuff that you're going to be releasing soon. So thank you so much, Daniel, for sharing all your instruments and your knowledge and your musical wisdom with us. And then, yeah, I want to reach out to you, find your music. We'll check the links below. We'll have a bunch of stuff that people can check out. Awesome. Well, it was good chatting with you, Daniel. We'll see you later.
Too, Fiona. Thank you so much. All right.
Okay, you're welcome. Take care. Bye.
counter